www.offthecorner.net. You're watching the Fact Project here on DJ Tiger channel. Shout out to DJ Tiger. In fact, of course, is an acronym that stands for Fundamental African Centered Thought. The goal here on the Fact Project is to convey some thoughts and some information to members of our community. Of course, as always, on the first Monday of the month, it is IJ Tyemba Monday here on the Fact Project. Peace, brother IJ. Thank you for joining us today, brother.
Peace. Thank you for having me, man.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. How you been, brother?
No complaints.
Okay. And if you complain, nobody cares, right?
You better believe
it. Either way, today's conversation is going to be on, is collectivism better than individualism? We're going to come to that, but we're coming up right now on the 100th birth anniversary of the great Omawali Malcolm X. So I'm just curious to know, what are your thoughts as we going into May 19th, 2025?
Well, I believe that Malcolm X is perhaps the greatest Black liberation theorist and the greatest proponent of Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism in the 20th century, especially, besides Marcus Garvey himself. I think he's, in some ways, almost the reincarnated spirit of Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey did say, "Look for me in the whirlwind." And I do believe that energy is not created or destroyed. So I do believe that he's the best representative. He took Garvey's ideas and best popularized them amongst the greatest group of people. Most people I speak to, they've read a lot of people's books and seen a lot of films, but 90% of them say that autobiography of Malcolm X, some about Malcolm resonates with people and draws them into the movement. If Black liberation were a corporation, which it certainly should not be, he would probably be the greatest salesman, PR rep. He just brings people in more than any person that I know of, that I've heard of. He is the reason why his death, think about this, family, his assassination made a dude that was sleeping with a bunch of white women in the village in New York, bohemian, living here, living there, change his name from Leroy Jones to Mary Baraka, move up to Harlem, and start the Black Arts Repertory Theater, which is the formal beginning of the Black Arts movement. His assassination triggers all those young people in college and high school and those young activists listening to Malcolm and disgruntled with the with the fact that the civil rights movement didn't produce what they thought it would, made these people start the Black Panther Party, the US organization. Read the primary sources, their founding documents and their speeches. They refer themselves as the heirs of Malcolm. In other words, we young people inherit the ideas and the energy of Malcolm. We're going to carry out what he tried to, but he was unable to because he was shot down. He has saved so many of our lives. He has redirected so many people that were predators, community predators, and realigned us with a Pan-African and Black nationalist vision. So he, in my humble opinion, I know for me, he gets utmost respect. Utmost respect.
What was it about Malcolm X that he just had that magic, that he resonated with people?
He was authentic. He, first of all, I want to say this. He got it at a young age. That's critical. He didn't stumble into consciousness in prison. Nation of Islam didn't introduce him to consciousness. They reconnected him to consciousness. He got it as a child rather, from his parents who were Garveyites, right? His father's going around as a Garveyite minister, and Malcolm says in the book, he took him. See, I don't know why he took me, but he took him to all of those sermons. So Malcolm's hearing it firsthand, Garvey's teachings through his father, and his mother, Louise, wrote for the Negro World So he's getting it at home. That's the first thing. So even though he went wayward, the scriptures say, if you teach a child the way they should go when they were old, they will not depart from it. If they go away, they'll come back. So he came back to it in prison. He's reintroduced. That's number one. He got it early. Number two, there were organizations that were able to feed him. When he went wayward, there was a Nation of Islam. And his whole family, all his siblings were in the Nation of Islam. We got to remember that, right? The other thing is that he read voraciously. He didn't go with one book, one person, one organization. Even though in the Nation, he always said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was reading widely. He had a cabinet of people in Harlem. Negro History Group, I believe it was called John Henrik Clark, Maya Angelou, John Oliver Killens, some of our foremost intellectuals and activists and scholar activists were teaching his brother. John Henrik Clark has said repeatedly that Malcolm had a cabinet of intellectuals and that he was, John Henrik Clark, his historian. When he wanted to know history, he went to John Henrik Clark, and John Henrik Clark fed him. So he was not too arrogant to listen to other people. See, there's a lot to this, right? He's reading widely. He's going to experts in these things and getting their opinion. Where should I go? What should I read? Who should I know about? And I think his willingness to his discipline of being willing to change him, constantly change himself and improve himself. You know, so if you look at a lot of his writings in the last year of his life, it's very revolutionary, but it's also very cautionary. He's saying, beware that dollarism. If everything else fails, the dollarism will get you. Of course, he's talking about capitalism.
That's right.
And he's talking about don't let people box you in too much. Always be a critical thinker. Don't believe what you read and what you see. Know for yourself. He's talking about study. So he embodies to me what we mean when we talk about Wukusu, and he came up with wake up, clean up, stand up. He embodies this idea of correction, not just blaming white folk as we should for what they've done, not just standing up and fighting, but like, yo, what about me gets in my own way? What about me is causing trauma to my family, to my community? You know, what do I think that's absolutely wrong that I need to know clearly what's going on and let me correct it? And he embodies all that, bro. So I think even the coroner, the man who examined his body, did his autopsy. This is deep. He said, I've examined thousands of bodies. He said, this is the cleanest body I've ever seen. Now that may seem superficial, but that's symbolic of clean. This is a brother who was approaching, possibly at the risk of sounding spooky, what our ancient Kemetic relatives ancestors were talking about, approaching godlike status on earth, because you've done so much purification, going through intense struggles, and it's cleaning you, and you're reflecting, and you're teaching, and you're lifting as you're climbing. I think that he was on that track. I really do.
Okay,
he was special. He was not normal.
Yeah, he was an exceptional individual. I'm noticing the montage of photos of Malcolm X behind you, and I know on May 19th, Harlem Liberation School is going to be doing something special for Malcolm X on that day. What can you tell us about what you have planned for May 19th on Harlem Liberation?
Well, to be quite honest with you, this is going to be an exceptional May 19th. My firstborn daughter, Nubia, who's a licensed registered nurse and a doula, will be receiving her master's degree in being a midwife as well, to add to that. So because that's the day she's graduating, we're going to be supporting her with that. And I think Brother Malcolm would have supported that. Education is our passport to the future. She was, by the way, fed all of this. She, like Malcolm, got this really young. I was teaching all this stuff, and she was like 2, 3, 4 years old. She was with me in graduate school. I'm taking those lessons and trying to teach them to her. So she, I'm glad you raised that. She represents to me kind of the hope of what Malcolm meant when he said that we need to teach our kids properly. And that if you teach them properly, you kind of give them the best chance to become empowered beings. He didn't use that language. That's essentially what he's saying. And that as we talk about people in the streets with the heat and the militias we need, and we need farmland, guess what? Do we need hospitals?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we need black people to staff them. So when she got into nursing and she delivers children, family, she brings black life into the world. That's highly important, right? So she represents to me that Malcolm's idea, like we need all types of Africans in this, man, at every level, everything we need. So um, I might try to get out to. We try to always go to the annual pilgrimage to his gravesite, which is a lot earlier. I might try to get there. I just know that graduation's a lot to it, and I don't want to be late or anything. But if we can make it, we will make it, and hopefully we'll build with brother Asukele Mitchell and brother Dennis Boatwright will be there from Detroit, from the Center of Pan African Studies. So it'd be cool if we can make it, which we will try to do.
And I know Professor James Small plays a major role in that as well.
Yes, sir.
Either
Sons of Africa. Yep.
either way, today's subject is collectivism better than individualism? Now, here on the Fact Project, I've said any number of times that there is strength in numbers and that we're always stronger together than we will ever be separated and apart from each other. And we have people power, but we don't necessarily understand people power because we're not organized. That's what Stokely Carmichael was trying to say. Join an organization. If you don't see one you like, start one. You don't want to start one or join one, donate to one. But we definitely have to organize. And organized people can do anything. And working together works. And so the question says, is collectivism, in your opinion, better than the European value of individualism?
Yeah. Well, so I will say that me, brother Rye, I don't speak in polls like this or that. I tend to take from what's available. So for me, collectivism, working together, not being selfish, rising above your own level of understanding, being able to connect and interact with other brothers and sisters and organizations is of course important. That's needless to say. And then at the same time, we have to recognize that groups and organizations are composed of individuals. So we do want the people joining our organizations, our family lines, our bloodlines, and all these things to be right. We don't want no crackpots, no coons joining our bloodlines and our organizations. So what does this mean? That we got to focus on the individual to make sure that the individuals interacting in our village with our daughters, with our wives, with our people, our organizations are right. That means that there has to be, and this is why Malcolm is so important, particularly for this discussion. Malcolm was always organizing, built temples for the Nation of Islam all over the East Coast, right? We know that. That's a matter of fact. Built two organizations after he left the Nation of Islam, Muslim Mosque Incorporated and the Organization of Afro American Unity. However, he also was big on make sure you're right. So we have to push working together collectively, but we also have to push individuals being their highest selves. And sometimes that means you can't necessarily move with the crowd. And this sometimes you may have to be doing work on self. So that means spiritual devotionals, meditation, exercise, reading and study. So that when I go to that study group, I'm not sitting there like, what do you mean?
Mm.
Who is Malcolm X? Because I'm not doing any enrichment. So I don't see it as a either or. I see it as a both and. We need strong organizations. We need to know that it's not just about what IJ thinks or Rod thinks, that we're in a village and we have to be able to fit into those village schemes, listen to others and build with others. But we also got to come there our best selves. As we're working with organizations, we're also fighting to be our highest selves, to be humble and not to be arrogant, to be able to listen, to be able to challenge our beliefs. if we're in a group and there's a discussion and I'm just straight nationalist, this person talking Pan-African, we have to be able to respect each other enough as individuals in a group to hear each other out without the name calling, the shaming, and that type of thing. So I believe it's all important. Now, if you framing it like, can you just go out here on your own and call yourself a revolutionary? No, you cannot. So having said all that, no, that you can't do. As you said, you have to either start an organization, be in some type of organization or formation, or donate to an organization, promote what an organization is doing. You have to be connected to something larger than yourself. So absolutely, in that sense, yes.
Okay, now when I'm saying individualism, I'm talking about how many of our people have bought into this capitalist mentality. I'm trying to get mine, I'm doing me, and I'm not going to worry about the rest of the group. So when I say individualism, that's what I'm comparing collectivism to. So in that context, understanding the clarity of that definition, collectivism versus that brand of individualism, what side of the coin would you come down on that?
Yeah, well, I'm certainly a critic of capitalism for a long time, and I'm a critic of anything we accept from Europeans, particularly if it is not working for us. So we got to say, okay, we got black faces in high places. We got black people with mad money. We got more black billionaires than ever and millionaires. How is that working for us? Are most black people benefiting from the fact that Jay-Z got an exhibit in the Brooklyn Library and him and Beyonce are worth $1 billion and all these other Kanye West? Like, how are the masses of people benefiting? And the truth of the matter is that since 19, I want to say 60s, black unemployment rate has been double that of white people all those years consecutively, including now. So the average black person has a tiny fraction of the assets, the material assets, financial assets that white people do. If you want to use, since we talk in finance, if you want to use those type of kind of benchmarks, so that's telling you that we're dying earlier than everybody. Our performance in math and certain things are lower than many people's. So our home single parent. So it's telling you that our families, our relationships, our communities, our money are fractured. So no, capitalism isn't working for us. If it did, as much as we sing the praises of it and and trying to be more white than white people, we should be right now. We should all be sitting pretty, but we not. So that's telling me that in this case that doesn't work, and we should explore other um, ideologies, other economic ideologies. So when people go to socialism, they forget that John Henry Clark told us, Dr. John Henry Clark, that black people were practicing that before they called it socialism, before Karl Marx was born. We may call it communitarianism, a village concept, whatever. But so I would say capitalism, man, creates, and Karl Marx was right and exact on his critique of it. In that sense, it alienates you from who you are. You lose your identity. It commodifies everything. So now young people don't listen to the person who's wise, right, and exact, and who's done big things and who has experience. They listen to the brother that got money. Well, him having money don't mean he right and exact, right? So, and everybody's chasing this proverbial bag. And how many of us are getting that bag? I'm curious. What do black people see as real money? What's every individual black people trying to chase in terms of money? Did you get it yet? Did your auntie get it? Did your grandma get it? Your grandfather worked 40 years in the same place. Your grandmother washed white people's floors for decades. What did they get when they died? What land did they leave you? What intergenerational wealth does your family have? Most black people I speak to don't have much to speak of. This is a key indictment on capitalism and the fact that we're chasing this illusion that doesn't work for us is leading us to graveyards and to prison as we get involved with being community predators, selling their dope and whatever else we doing. Where's that taking us? Right to hell. So, no, I don't support capitalism at all.
Now, I've learned through my over the years in my studies that in European culture, the highest ideal is the thing, and the thing could be money. It could be, colonialism and stealing other people's land. It could be a material item, but the highest ideal is the thing or the acquisition of the thing. In the African tradition, the highest ideal has always been relationships with other people. And so that's that kind of concept of collectivism. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts on that idea that the highest ideal among us should be relationships as opposed to acquiring the thing, whatever the thing is?
I definitely, excuse me, I definitely don't think our highest ideal should be anything material. If people do the actual study and read what people like Thoth wrote, what is now called they put it in a book called the Kabbalion and all this, and they give the attribution to some Greek guy, but it really comes from Kemet. And you look at those 7 to 12 laws. The first law is that everything is mental, and mental is everything.
Mm.
So that's telling you that it ain't about physical. That's right there. The first law. It's not about nothing physical. It's invisible. That's consciousness. It's mental. How you think, right? Your character. These are invisible things. They're not physical. So everybody's chasing these physical things and not understanding, yo, you going in the wrong direction. And anybody who chases that will become like the European. See, that's the other piece. When you go that route, using Star Wars language, you go to the dark side. When you go that route, now you kill somebody over a piece of paper with the white man's face on it. You become pedophilic. You develop all types of sicknesses when you go that route
Mm.
because it is a sick way to think. This whole earth, and you got people talking like, that's mine. Like, word? I got airspace. How a country got airspace?
Mm.
Like think about that. So they commodify everything. And anyone whose major goal in life is to chase anything got it wrong, bro. That's gonna always end up with sickness, ratchetism, tribalism, all of those negative isms, because we're supposed to be chasing truth, invisible truth, justice, beauty, harmony. Those are invisible.
Now,
Those are ideas.
yeah, a noted African-centered psychologist, Dr. Jerome E. Fox. Not sure if you're familiar with him. He put out a book recently called "Addicted to White," and he says that there are 5 core white values that Black people have become addicted to that don't serve us ultimately. And he says this idea of individualism is one of those core white values that is basically holding us back. So, Black unity, the concept of Black collectivism, has always been the undercurrent to deal with systemic white supremacy. And Black collectivism poses the greatest threat to systemic white supremacy. What are your thoughts on this idea of Black collectivism being used to do what Neely Fuller Jr. said, eliminate the system of structural racism, which is based on the myth of white supremacy, and replace it with a system that is based on justice? Do we achieve that by Black collectivism?
Well, I think most of your watchers are intelligent. They're not dummies. So they already know the answer to that is very simple. That obviously when you're outgunned, you're out financed. Other people, your enemy has a 400-year head start. You got people that got tribalism and think they ugly and can't do nothing. Obviously, you need to group up, right? You can't do that. No one man or woman is going to do that by themselves. That's the only thing, by the way. That's the only critique I got of that movie, The Matrix, that comes from our sister, is that it focused on the one. See, that's the whole thing. It ain't gonna be the one. In my movie, if the white men would have did it right, the Wachowski brothers, I'm sure they massacred her sister. I think that was either Sophia Stewart or can't
Sophia
remember.
Stewart, you said it right.
Yeah, Sophia Stewart. I'm sure they massacred the idea, but African cosmology says that we all got the ability to be the one. That we all supposed to be, if I am quote unquote the master of this, I'm supposed to be teaching others so they become that. So it ain't gonna be one magic guru or messiah, right? We are the leaders and saviors we're looking for. So I believe that. I do definitely believe that. And I teach that as often as I can. If you know something, you're supposed to be sharing it. We're supposed to be using these digital platforms. And I know the white man made them. The white man made the money in your pocket and the car you driving too. But the point is, we're supposed to be using these platforms to teach, to get this information out. So I'm not just sitting on decades of knowledge for myself. It's supposed to be I'm getting it to enrich myself and then to help my community. So absolutely. And let me tell y'all something, family. You can read 1,000,000 books from today until you die. And almost none of them are going to tell you anything completely new from what we already got. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Keep reading. I do. Brother Rod does. Keep reading so you can get more inspiration, different ways of looking at things. But if you read the foundational classic books, you're going to have the basis of everything new that's coming, because everything new coming, guess what? Is building on those classic books. John Henrik Clark, Dr. Ben, Wade Nobles, Jacob Carruthers, Renuko Rashidi, and Dr. Ben. We can keep going. All those people laid the groundwork. Anything else you're reading is building on them. So if you're not knowledgeable enough about the new stuff, I would strongly recommend get down with those foundational works, because that is going to be, if you have that as a foundation, you're going to have the basis of what you need to know for everything else.
Now, having knowledge of self gives us a collective African identity. How much of a role does having a shared collective identity play in this concept of collectivism?
Yeah, well, that comes down to identity. So the thing is, one of the issues we have, and it's funny, I posted a short of our great elder Hakeem Adabuti. He's now 81. And he's built 3 or 4 schools, a printing house. I mean, he's doing it. He's been doing it since the 60s. And he said, if you ask 10 black people how they identify themselves, you get 10 different answers. So and he's right, and probably get 20 different answers, you know. And that's not to make mockery of other people, but when we talk about moving collectively, that comes down also to how people identify themselves. So if a person says they're Hebrew, and a person says they're Islamic, and those, let's say, those spaces have contention with each other because they disagree on certain things, that gets in the way of collectivism. So this is why Brother Malcolm said they don't do this because you're a Mason. They don't mistreat you because you're an elk. They don't mistreat you because you're gender. And we can keep going. They mistreat you because you're black, or we might say you're African. So if we could at least get people to understand that the reason that we are mistreated and disrespected is because of who we are and where we come from, what we've done, and the threat we represent to the world when it comes out of who we really are, then we can get rid of some of those things. So he even came up with a way to get past the tribalism. He said, look, you can be who you are, but understand that when they see us, they don't see Hebrew, more, and all these different things. They see a black man and woman, and they persecute you on that basis. So I don't know if I answered the question, but to me, the crux of that question is identity. If people don't identify, I heard a brother say that because he's not African, he don't mess with anybody that says they're African. I heard a brother say we not African American. So if you African American, I don't mess with you. So see, look, if you got people that look just like me and you, Rob, parents came from South, or from a Caribbean island, and they looking at you like, nah, man, I don't identify with that. I don't. You change your name to African names. You can't trace your lineage to Africa. And they get into that. How are we going to where's the collectivism?
Exactly.
So that's very important. And this is why the people that dealt with identity, and again, Brother Malcolm, he talks about we're not minorities. He talks about we're not Negroes. He broke down the whole etymology of Negro. That means dead. It comes from death, necro, as in necrophilia. Like, so he was, if you look at, he was on all of that. Isn't that something? that he covered all of those things. So yeah, to me, the crux is identity. So that, I think, Brother Rob, we need to help with our collectivism, we need to look at ourselves as a confederation. So that means a assemblage of nations that work together. So you Hebrew Israelite nation. Pan African, okay, Pan African nation. Black nationals, boom. And we all can work together as we keep our individual identities. You can still pray and do things and worship the deity you want, but we understand that we have common enemies and a common history and common oppression and languages, so we work together. So I think that, speaking of what you're saying, our leaders, particularly the intellectuals today, because I think that would be intellectual work, framing that properly, and then the activists would roll it out to the community and give it life. The intellectuals have to think about ways that we get past the tribalism.
Mm.
And that's very simple, not overly complex, and help people understand you could be who you are. It's unity without uniformity.
Right.
That's what the ancestors and the elders said in the Black Power movement, that we can think alike, but we don't have to think identically on everything. That kind of summarizes what we're talking about, I think.
Yeah, and yeah, I just lost my thought. I was gonna go somewhere where you just went, but either way, the great Dr. John Henry Clark, you mentioned him. He talked about this concept of Pan-Africanism or perish. And Brother Shamari out of Philly always talks about this concept of Black life. Life is LIFE, liberation, independence, freedom, and empowerment. I don't know if we can achieve that without unity, which is the first principle of the Nguzo Saba, which is what I call the 7 principles of Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism. And the concept of Pan-Africanism and the concept of Black life, this being able to bring about an independent reality for people of African heritage. Dr. John Henry Clark said Pan-Africanism will perish. And just to spin off of what you just said, we don't necessarily all have to identify as the same thing. If you choose to identify as something else, I think, I respect a person's right to do so. But we still need some kind of, or some amount of operational unity if we're going to go forward. So that's just a layer just to add on to what you just said. But this concept of Pan-Africanism or perish, which was proposed by the great Dr. John Henry Clark. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, see, this is the beauty. I love these type of questions and discussions, Brother Rod. Thank you. I want the people watching to really see that this Black liberation movement is not segmented. It's a continuum. It's a loop. This thing ain't start yesterday. This thing started before your great grandparents were born, family. And it may continue after your great grandkids die. It is a long, protracted struggle. So look, if you trace this, John Henry Clark, Carlos Cooks before him, Marcus Garvey before him, Noble Drew Ali around the same time, right? The great Trinidadians that actually are some Padmore and CLR James and some of the people that brought this is a consistent theme. They said it differently. They telling you if we don't organize commonsensically on the basis of what we most have in common, what is that? We come from Africa. Straight music, right? We come from Africa. If we don't organize on the basis of that, in a world where everyone has been taught to hate us and move against us, use our knowledge, use our culture, benefit from what we do and use it against us, we will definitely perish. That is straight up. That's straight facts, right? That's straight facts. And they all said it in different ways. Garvey probably is one of the best proponents of it in his time. And I think that X was probably the next best, but that's what they're saying. And it's kind of common sense. So when you see what's going on in the Alliance of Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria, they're operationalizing what we're talking about. That's what they're doing. And then they're saying, we got each other's back. They kicked the white man out. Look what they did. They kicked them out. They took over all the natural resources. They started their own banks. They're not going to the white man for no money. And they're working together. And other African countries are now waking up. Zimbabwe's like, we keeping our lithium, right? All these different countries are kicking white folk out, keeping their mining, taking back their mines and the contracts, not exporting certain things to European nations. That's Pan-Africanism. They are showing you what we're here talking about. They're showing you what that looks like on the ground. We work together, right? And they have different languages, Brother Raj. You know, these different countries have different indigenous languages, maybe certain different clothing styles, but they certain deities, religious practices that are different, but they still rocking together. That's the key. They still rocking together. Now, Garvey and X was saying, if we can understand that domestically too, like here in the United States, you know, I've been to places where people in New York didn't get along with people here, and it's just ridiculous. If we could understand that in a cultural sense, if we can understand that, don't get caught up in where you live in this country. Don't make form prejudiced ideas about people based on where they live. They all Africans. We sound different. I got a New York accent. This one got a Mississippi accent. So what? You ain't eating, I ain't eating. Who's the cause of you eating, I ain't eating?
That's right.
Who's the cause of our family members dying in their 50s and 60s? Who's the cause everywhere? And then you'll see, wow, yeah, these great intellectuals, they're right. These people, generally speaking, represent an adversary to us, and we gotta strap up. We gotta stand up and make sure that we're defending ourselves, our lives, our culture, and our history, but also creating the things we need, which is why study what's going on in Burkina Faso. That brother Traore, man, listen, there's a lot we can learn. He's showing you what Malcolm and Garvey were talking about.
Now, I do want to come back to that, not to cut your wisdom. I do want to come back to the Sahel states, because I think that's all part of this conversation of Black unity and Black collectivism. However, we got somebody in the chat, Realist203, that says, I'm not African or from Africa. So I'm curious to know, what do you identify as? And what is your solution to bring about liberation, independence, freedom, and empowerment for whatever group you identify as? Now, if you are in the chat and you have a question for Brother Ajay Tyemba, by all means, put that in the chat. But here on the Fact Project, we are solution-based. And I say, saying that you're not African and don't identify as African, that in and of itself is not a solution. And that in and of itself is not going to get you better treatment in a system of structural racism, which is based on the myth of white supremacy. So I don't know if you want to add on to that. If not, we can go on to the next thing.
No, I'm not going to put too much in. He got the right to see the world as he wants. I hope it works for you, good brother. Right. Good luck with that.
So either way, we're going to come back to good luck with that. Come back to the Sahel region of Africa. Now, just summarize for us, for the people that may not know, because we don't get a lot of this in the mainstream media, what actually is transpiring right now in the Sahel region of Africa?
Yes. So we talk about Sahel region, talk about the west coast of Africa, around where it's rounded out, kind of right below the Sahara Desert, sub-Saharan. Typically a high percentage of Muslim people, and because France colonized many of the West African territories, they tend to speak a lot of French, tend to be Francophone speaking. So what happened was, France being one of the major colonial powers, during the African independence movement in the 60s, 70s, a lot of these nations won their freedom. France was real slick with it. They had all these nations that were under their control sign this document, which basically kept them colonized, even though they were free now, right? So they had to like give 85% of their national reserves and keep it in French banks, fam. That's crazy. They had to allow the French military to be in their countries and to intervene whenever the France decided. They made them use French currency, family. This is crazy. They made them use French as their official languages in their country, family. So they did a lot of things that kept them in bondage, and their governmental system is a whole lot of things. So these countries finally say, you know what? We're not rocking with that no more. They kicked them out. They had a whole revolution. Cool. I think in 2022, 2023, they kicked them out through military. They call juntas or coup d'états. You know, militaries took over and they instituted their own laws. They took back their land. They completely terminated those predatory contracts and business relationships they had with these white folk. Right? Kicked them out, took over their stuff, and they even left the group that they created, ECOWAS, and created their own group called the Alliance of Sahel States. ECOWAS, by the way, was supposedly founded by several West African nations, but the truth of the matter is it is a front that European colonial masters control, primarily. Guess who? France. So it's really a front for France. So France said, we're going to suspend you guys, you three countries, because you were so mean to the nice white man. And so they said, oh, word, suspend us. And it's just started their own thing, the Alliance of Sahel States. So they've agreed to fight for each other, fight with each other, share resources, and help to build each other's economies. And I should add, for those who don't want to call themselves African, that these people are making moves. So to the brother or sister, don't call yourself African, make sure that who you align with is somebody that's moving in a positive direction, is creating abundance for you, not just talking. This Alliance of Sahel States, man, they got tomato refineries. They building electric cars. They done paid off their national debt without borrowing a dime from the white man. They're showing improving, building highways, working on a super fast train. I mean, they're making moves because they have reclaimed their territory and their natural resources. So that's essentially what it's about. It is nationalism fused with Pan-Africanism on a world stage where you can see it, you can follow it. Wow, that's what it looks like. Okay, that's what that looks like when Garvey is saying, we got to liberate African countries. When X is saying we got to control the resources of Africa that the white man is always stealing. That's what it looks like. If you don't know what it looks like, go on YouTube and check out on the news and check out what's going on. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, and check it out.
Okay. Now, we know about the Haitian Revolution, which culminated into the freedom of Haiti in 1804, began in the late 1700s. What's going on in the Sahel region of Africa now? Is that akin to the Haitian Revolution, or is that similar to what we saw happen in Haiti, where African people in Haiti rose up and got their independence from European powers?
Yes. As I said not too long ago, history is a continuum. So nothing happens in isolation. When you see some big movement, like the Black Power movement comes about, Malcolm has been spending 13 years talking about Black nationalism and Pan-Africanism, and that we need to strap up. Maybe nonviolence don't work, right? People are listening, and finally, 13 years later, after he's killed, people are like, we gotta put that into being. What he was talking about. He said, do we need a Black nationalist army or party, right? People heard that call and picked up on it. In the same way, the same thing happened with, let's say, Haitian Revolution. Haitian Revolution, the white man in America was so scared of that because they were afraid that this is going to rile up the Negroes over here.
Right. That's
the
true.
Nat Turner revolt was so, man, listen, the white people were shaking in their boots. They were afraid that all these black people all over their southern colonies or slave states were going to rise up. So yes, and here's the other thing, not just what white people thought, what it does for us. What does it do for you when a neighborhood bully who's been taking everybody's money, beating everybody up, somebody finally stands up and gives him a black eye and knocks him out? What does that do for you? You say, oh shit, he ain't gonna take my money. So people start standing up. So what's happening is that when those three countries stood up, other countries, as I said, Zimbabwe, Namibia, there's a sister who's the prime minister of Namibia. Guess what? She just kicked about 300 to 500 white Americans out of her country because they were there without proper visa. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
And unlike your boy who's doing it here, they were illegally mining. in Namibia
Wow. Wow.
stealing stuff. So she said, "All right, boom, out, get out." Kicked them out. See, this is new. This ain't that's unparalleled.
Mm.
Where we moved like that, but that comes from centuries of teaching and laboring and political parties and books and films, and people get it. What Traore is doing is very much in the footsteps of the father of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara, who famously came to Harlem with his gun locked and loaded. See, this dude is just like him. He goes everywhere with his side piece as a way of saying, like, wherever I go, if I can't take my personal weapon, I'm not going.
Mm.
That's a statement to people that I'm ready to defend my life at all times in my country. So yeah, it's all that's the beauty of this thing, man. It's not one person, and it speaks to collectivism versus individual. It's not one person, it's all of these people who built on each other, worked together. Some of them fought. The boys in Garvey ain't get along, and they both said ugly things about each other. But the boys lived to be damn near 100 years old and died in Ghana. He got it
Eventually.
and apologized. You see, so we fight, we fuss, we do our thing, but it's a bunch of people, man, that make this gumbo work. This is revolutionary gumbo. Shout out to my brother, Obafemi, who got an album out called a series of mixtapes, Revolutionary Gumbo or RBG Gumbo. That's what it is. All these people adding their flavor, and we build on it. No one person can take credit for this movement, you know.
Now, you mentioned Harlem Liberation School, and I always want to circle back to that. I would send people to Harlem Liberation School. Make sure you go there, like and subscribe. Check out all the discussions, all of the videos, all of the shorts. You did something recently that talked about this concept of anti-intellectualism. And I know you said something also about a podcast. You had a video entitled Anti-Intellectualism is Whack. What can you tell us about that video?
Yeah, well, the thing with anti-intellectualism and what that is this mentality where you ridicule, you resent, you dismiss research, scholarship, reading, study groups, analysis, or anything considered ideas based or not physical. The problem with that is that as our ancestors taught and, and as we should know, everything we do is based on ideas. You got money in your pocket, that money is an idea. You believe in Pan-Africanism? Well, now, you believe in an idea. You believe in marriage and the right to this and the right to that. Those are ideas. Everything is an idea. Your religion, your gender, your sexuality, all that stuff, right? So so anything that's telling you to resent and trivialize something that is so pervasive in your reality is by definition probably not good. The truth of the matter is, whereas we shouldn't be overly intellectual, Brother Ra, like, Pookie got shot, Ranisha got shot, 20 different black people this month got shot on the same corner. We shouldn't spend three years trying to figure out what to do about that.
Right.
That's overly intellectual. That's like, man, you a coward. You afraid to do what needed to be done, so you just stalling. No, I'm not saying being overly intellectual, but we need to say, why are these people getting killed? Who's behind it? How are they getting killed? What do we need to stop them? And what are the different ways we could do it? And then do it. So the problem when we're anti-intellectual, Brother Ra, is that we tend to make people that write, that speak, that teach, that write curriculums that are in our schools, that are scholars, obsolete. They're not important. All you do is talk. Man, if I had $1 every time I heard that in this movement, all they do is talk. We out here with guns. We build homes. We do. Well, guess what? Hold on. The same people won't go one day of their life without quoting John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Amos Wilson, Francis Cress Wilson, Ivan Van Sertima. So guess what? These people were not activists. They wasn't knocking on doors and making calls and getting people to meetings and no, feeding people in the street. They weren't doing that. They weren't in militias. That wasn't what they did. What they did was priceless. What they did allows us to do what we do because we drawn on what? Their ideas. So when we're anti-intellectual, we are robbing ourselves of a very important foundation of any liberation movement. That's the ideas. What is the ideologies? What are we trying to do? What's our method? Why are we doing it? Right? How do we identify ourselves? What are the principles? What is our code that we live by? All of those things are ideas. Those are intellectual things. Um, every movement we had some type of intellectual element, whether it was abolitionist movement, convention movement, oh my God, civil rights movement, Black Power movement. There was some level of either formal political education classes, as is the case with Republican New Africa and Revolutionary Action Movement and the Black Panther Party, or the civil rights movement, things like freedom schools, where they taught people how to the Constitution and what their rights were. There's always this element of to be the best fighters, we got to study. And by the way, even if you want to take it on the physical level, martial artists have schools, right? They write books, right? They have films. So they, even the physical stuff, there's gun clubs. They go to the range. That's education for that. But you have to know what you're talking about, know who you are, how you define yourself, and what you're doing, right? So to me, this is an attack. When I see anti-intellectualism come up from our people, that's one of the greatest tools of white folk.
Mm.
Make us say, "Oh man, you ain't got to read that, brother. You ain't got to, nah, brother. You ain't got to be able to know, be able to define black nationalism. Just claim yourself as a black nationalist."
Right.
Come on, man. Like that's preposterous. That's so crazy that people would even entertain that. But it's often done in very subtle ways, brother Ra. It may be somebody saying, man, forget the books. Let's do something. You ever heard that in the
Yeah.
meetings?
Yeah.
No, man, we just gotta do something. No, you okay. Look at your enemy. I saw a thing from Daythard Perry on Gil Noble's show Like It Is. Gil Noble interviewed a sellout brother who was a FBI agent and went on his show and actually said, I'm probably gonna get killed for this. I'm an FBI agent. He revealed everything. And he said that white folk had materials on our movements, organizations, and individuals that were much larger than the Schomburg Library.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
What does it tell you? They're winning the battle. And yet they are studying us, family. They don't play that. Oh no, let's just do it. They study, and that's why they're so effective. They know our squabbles, our hangups, our insecurities. They know they study individuals. He said that if they knew a dude smoked a lot, they have the cigarettes.
Wow.
They'd be in the bar. He goes to this bar, they'd have a brother in the bar. If they're trying to get information from a woman, they have a fine brother, supposedly nice. They know what type of brother she like. They send him in.
Wow.
They send the sister in that brother Ryan likes, the type of, I'm saying hypothetically, the type of physicality you or I may like in a sister to draw us in. So they study us very closely. Why? Do they like us to study us? No. They want to know how to destroy us. Right? If there's a virus like AIDS, you study it not because you're in love with AIDS. You study it to destroy it. So you got to be intellectual. You just can't be overly intellectual.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Black Power movement, Civil Rights movement, Black Panther movement, Black Arts movement. I think we need to start mentioning the Black consciousness and hip hop movement of the late 80s in the same breath. Thul Sadum, who was in the chat, chiming in heavy in the chat, he said, "This is why positive hip hop is a good balance. The MC tells the story of the village and keeps the history alive." And I think we need to restore this concept of the village. Now, Brother Ajay, in the time that we have left, I want you to talk about your latest book, Wukusu. Why did you write Wukusu?
Yes, I just want to build quickly on what the brother said.
Go ahead.
That's a very good point, Brother Ra. That's a very good point. It wasn't probably didn't have the level of organization like some of those other formal movements, but in terms of its impact, man, listen, when we were taking over Syracuse University, we were playing Public Enemy songs. As we were marching up to that building to take that shit over, we were bumping Public Enemy, right? And all over the country, when students were taking over colleges, when people were protesting what was going on with the so-called Central Park Five, when Columbia University was trying to take the Audubon Ballroom and own it, and we were fighting and say, no, make that the Malcolm X Betty Shabazz Center, which it is now, right? At every one of those things, there were people there who were motivated by music, by hip hop. So yes, whether you're talking about Poor Righteous Teachers, X-Clan, Public Enemy Number One, KRS, yes, that is very important. And as a brother that's 50, just turned 57 last week, that was my what do they call that? Soundtrack of my life, hip hop.
Sure.
I can name a song for every feeling, everything I felt, everything I've gone through my life. I can name a song that describes it. So yes, that's very important. I'm glad that you said that, Brother Rod. I'm glad the brother said that in the chat. Now, my book Wukusu, which I might have, I don't have it right here. Self-Empowerment Handbook. It's really a thin book. It's not meant to be this really long read. It's a quick read because it's designed for you to do this urgently. And it's broken up into, it's based on Brother Malcolm and Sister Asada. Brother Malcolm said famously, very quickly and elegantly, it wasn't overly wordy. He said, Black people need to wake up, clean up, and stand up. Right? So what I did was took that and broke it down. What is, and Harlem Liberation School has an acronym, Wukusu, wake up, clean up, stand up. That's our greeting. So Wukusu, brothers and sisters watching, but also it's saying those are the 3 steps we need to reclaim ourselves as a collective people and as individuals. This book is self-empowerment. So it's really talking about how to know who you are, why you're here, how you identify yourself, what are your challenges, what are your strengths. Cleanup means correcting yourself. What are the things about me that get in the way, that prevent me from being more powerful, more effective, a better husband, father, whatever in the community, right? And then slowly dissolving those things about us that aren't beautiful, right? And then standing up speaks to having done this work. We don't do it just for ourselves. We do it so that now we can engage in our community more effectively. So stand up now talks about exerting leadership, activism, building organizations, building community initiatives, right? Having our farmland and gun clubs and militias and all those things that constitute ways to heal and solve our own problems for ourselves. So that's what the book is about. There are parts of it that are definitely political, but the truth of the matter is this book, family, is about you trying to be a better you, connected to you being a more political powerhouse. And Asada said it's not enough to challenge the system. We must change ourselves. So I took what Malcolm said about wake up, clean up, stand up, what Asada said about self-improvement, and that's the foundation of the book. That's what the book is coming from. It's,
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I put it up here on the screen so people will know what it is when they're looking for it. Go online and check this out. What would you suggest? Would you suggest people go on Amazon, or is there another way that people can get the book?
They could go on Amazon, or they could do it through me directly. They do it through me direct. They have to hit me up on email, and it would probably be the same price there, but it would be $4 or $5 additional because I gotta ship it to you. I'll sign it and all that, but then I have to pay the price of shipping it. So that's the only thing. But yeah, and they can see me. They can hit me up at truself143@gmail.com.
So TRUSELF. Say it again. True Self.
Yeah. truself143@gmail.com.
43. Got it. I'm putting that in the chat right now.
Brother Rod, do I have 30 seconds?
Yes, you do. Go ahead.
There was a video we didn't get to. The video
Uh-oh.
is saying that, talking about why are black people so persecuted. And I was
Yes,
hoping
yes.
we didn't get to it.
Mm.
But the premise of that they're saying is, because they have to undo the lie that African people didn't do nothing and weren't important and didn't contribute to humanity. But guess what? It's the other part of that lie. Because when we know and when other people know what we did, in fact, that the whole world came to Africa to learn that we created all these different forms of civilization, it also strips away the foundation of white supremacy.
That's right.
That it's not just what it shows us, it's what it shows about them, that they were in caves, participating in cannibalism.
Sure.
They weren't bathing. They were beating each other over the head and dragging them to the cave as a dating ritual. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't have hygienic practices. So it strips away. They say, wait a minute, we thought y'all were the paragon of society. And you mean to tell me that y'all was treating each other like animals? And all the stuff you said about us was really projections of yourself. So that eliminates white supremacy. That's dead. That's gone. So that's the part I wanted to get to also. And I'm done, but that's important. It's not just what it says about us, it's that it reveals and exposes them.
Absolutely.
And
now
once people see that, they no longer bow down.
Yeah, the video we're talking about is coming from a channel called African Myths Unveiled. It was posted recently, 3 days ago. And the title of the video, and I have it here on the screen, I would suggest everybody go and watch this video. Why Africans were always seen as a threat. The untold truth that they never told us. So I would encourage people to go and watch that video so that you can understand what Brother Ajay is talking about. Also, go to Harlem Liberation School, watch those videos, like and subscribe, and share those videos too. Brother Ajay, on the way out, is there anything else you want to add on about Harlem Liberation School or any other books, any events you may have coming up? Oh, wait, hold on, brother. You on mute. Say that again. Say it again. I had you on mute. Sorry about that.
Yes, sir. I want to thank you for our monthly session, man. I appreciate these opportunities. Thank you for having me on your platform and sharing it. Thanks out to yourself for the work you're doing, good brother. Thanks to brother DJ Tiger. Thanks to everybody that's affiliated with it. It's a team, man. It's going to take. We ain't gotta be in love with each other, but we gotta see beauty in each other, see our value, and work together around those things. And we can pull this off. It ain't gonna be easy, but we could pull this thing off, family. And some respects, we're doing it. We're winning already, and just don't understand it.
So, just to close it out, yes or no? Is collectivism better than individualism?
Yes, if by that you mean is working together better than think you do it by yourself, or it's all about you, absolutely.
Okay. So we want to close on that note. Just for clarity, I want to make sure we drive home the point so that everybody understands exactly where we're going. I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Thul Sadum. We also had Henry Sedillo. We had some people that did not agree with what we were saying, but that's fine. We shout them out too. Affectionate Earth. Sound like someone that's a member of Nation of Gods and Earths. Salute to her. Realist 203. Shout out to Antonio Harris. Everybody in the chat that chimed in. We appreciate you all. Brother Ajay, I want to thank you for being on. And we look forward to having you again first Monday of next month. And then even maybe then we can talk about whatever Harlem Liberation School video was posted on the 100th birth anniversary of the great Omawali Malcolm X.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will talk to you in 4 weeks, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Peace.
All right, peace.